All right, everybody, we are in the home stretch today. We are taking a look at James Hagens of the Boston College Eagles of the NCAA, the largely often #1 ranked college program. They had a bit of a disappointing playoff, but this is a player who has been in the limelight in the hockey world for quite a while now, and it is finally time for Mr. Hagens to go in the NHL Draft at some point. Now, there's a lot that's been said about this player, and I think it's been very interesting to see how the talk around him has shifted and changed over the last season. The doubts, the questioning, the ups and the downs, but at the end of the day, I really do believe that James Hagens is still a really, really desirable player, especially when you watch him towards the end of this season. Now, in a nutshell, James Hagens to me is the definition of a skilled playmaker. This is a guy who, in my view, just has so much playmaking ability. The timing on his passes, the high pace of play, a really, really great set of feet under him, and skating ability with explosiveness and quickness that a lot of guys in this draft just don't quite have on the same level. Hagens is also on the smaller side, especially looking at the guys likely to go really high in this year's draft, but I do think Hagens has made up for it increasingly over the course of the season. We'll see in the data, but this is a guy who definitely early on in the year, I wanted to see more energy, more physicality. You gotta have at least some of that in your game if you're gonna be an NHL player, and Hagens did not really have that. There was a period of this season where I'm thinking, I don't know, Hagens might not be this top 5 guy, even top 6, 7, but as the year went on, that physicality certainly came through more and more. This is a guy who just goes out and drives great results in almost every facet of the game, a really, really efficient player with really great playmaking ability that is among the best in this year's draft and does so at a high pace of play. So with that, let's get into the video and see exactly why I've come to that conclusion about Mr. Hagens. So we're going to start with Hagens' skating ability, and this is pretty much undeniable. This is going to be the key cog in his game at the next level, and on this play, I think it's just a really good showcase of Hagens' ability just to get up the ice and keep his feet moving, carry a really good amount of momentum, change lanes on the fly here, you know, going from basically the midline of the ice into this lane, and doing so pretty seamlessly, and then in full stride, a little skill move between his legs like that. I mean, it's really, really good stuff. At the end, he doesn't really do much with the puck here, and that's definitely something you can question. But for me with Hagens, the focus again is on this skating ability, the skill level, and the combination of those two things at a really high level of play, high pace, high energy guy, and I think you need that to produce in the NHL in his kind of a potential role. And here's more of that on display, right? Hagens gets the puck down in the defensive zone exit here, carries it up the ice, and just a nice little move to get around this player and anticipate that pressure, get around him, and just toss one on net. I mean, I think that what you're going to see in the only area of his game that I can really point to very clearly and say is a bit of a question mark is his ability to get into scoring areas and really drive through pressure and score goals on his own. You look at his goal totals this year and it trailed a guy like Cullen Potter, and I think it's pretty clear to see why when you watch Hagens, and we'll get to more of that in the future, but that's really not the hallmark of his game anyway, even though his shot is pretty good. It's something you can develop, but this is a really good example of just, again, that speed through the neutral zone, that puck control at high speeds, and that ability to sort of get around pressure with skill that can overcome a lot of those physical deficiencies I think people rightfully point out about him. And this is great too, right? Hagens has the puck here, and this is going to be something I think NHL coaches are going to want out of him, right? This is an unwinnable scenario. You've got all of these Providence College players all bunched up. He's not going to get through that, and he does the smart thing. We've seen tons of players try to get through this, and again, I don't mind a chip and chase or a dump and chase if you are the guy chasing after it, or there's good structure around you to really get down there and win that race. And Hagens is a guy who does have that speed. He has that willingness to get down low, and he did this a lot in the games that I saw if he was facing some oncoming pressure. And I think this is a good indicator of maybe some of the reasons I'm a little bit more comfortable with Hagens projecting him to the NHL. Again, that's a really nice backhand pass, nice and quick. Not a great pass from Gabe Perreault there. But then along the boards here, people are going to look at James Hagens and go, well, how's he going to play when the pressure is on him along the boards, and does he have the work rate and the energy to sort of resist that kind of pressure? And when I look at Hagens, you know, wrestling through that pressure from 8 there and trying to get the puck and keep it down low and cycle it below the net, those are the kinds of things that I want to see out of a guy like that. You know, to me, it's like we just did our report on Brady Martin not too long ago, and like Martin is a guy who's comfortable in these scenarios as well. But again, that skating and skill combination that Hagens has, even though he's not quite as big as a guy like Martin or as as, successful a hitter, I would say, as Martin. This is the kind of thing I think that can combine with that speed and skill and give you a lot of comfort, I guess, that he's willing to sort of spin off that pressure, get a stick on the puck, and keep making plays. This is nice and fancy. I pulled it because it just shows some good hand-eye coordination, a tape-to-tape pass in midair, batting it over to Gabe Perreault there. I mean, is this something that's going to happen a lot in the NHL and be successful every time? Probably not. But, I mean, it'd be cool if it was. If this was a guy whose hand-eye coordination is this good and consistently reliable like this, because this was a really nice pass where I kind of started to go, okay, like Hagens is definitely a pretty talented hockey player at the very core. This is a nice showcase of Hagens' skating ability under like close quarters kind of thing, and just slinging a pass right out tape to tape in front. Again, this is, I think, a really good indicator of again, what you need in the NHL. If you've got a little bit of time and space in the offensive zone and you're facing pressure pretty quick, if you can get your body oriented towards the offensive zone quickly like this, it gives you so many more options to make a play. And if this didn't feel like an option he wanted, he has a pretty clear lane to get out to the defenseman here, as opposed to eating it along the boards or something. To me, this was just a nice playmaking moment from Hagens that is just more evidence of how good a passer he is. And here's more of it, right? I mean, Hagens is just so talented. He's just so smooth with the puck on his stick here. Just a little flip pass from Hagens off this spin, right? He just spins off this guy, gets away from the pressure, and a backhand pass through traffic like this. I mean, that saucer pass on his backhand, there's not many guys in the NHL draft this year who can do stuff like this. Spin off that pressure, get to the boards, and then a backhand pass off the boards over all the sticks, through all the pressure, tape to tape. That's a really good structural play as well, like that other guy recognizing the ability to go to the net there. And I believe that's Teddy Stiga going to the net there. It isn't, but he also is there. I will mention this a few times in the video. I am a little biased in favor of Teddy Stiga, but I felt that Hagens played his best hockey with him. And I think it's because they had two players on the ice that really did have a bit more of that high energy, high pace, free-flowing style of play that was also very sort of selfless, very pass-oriented, and I think Stiga complements him very, very well. I know they are really close friends in real life, so, there's a lot of synergy there, and it just, unfortunately, with the way Boston College was this year, I didn't see them play together as much as I was hoping, but this is a good play out of Hagens, and a good sort of structural moment between this group that I think showcases a lot of what's possible between these guys. This is another one, just a nice backhand pass right into the slot. Again, Stiga causes a bit of an offensive zone turnover here, and he doesn't waste time to think, just puts it right back into that lane, hits Stiga with a clean pass, and Stiga gets taken out there. I mean, on that play, I think, again, it's this sort of quick strike, quick thinking, and surgical offensive playmaking right in the scoring areas that I think Hagens does really, really well, and unlike a lot of guys in this draft. Again, his strength really is a lot of really quick one-touch passing moves in the offensive zone. Look how quickly he makes this pass, and that's such a brilliant little play. Again, it's not the fanciest thing in the world, but to be able to have this kind of structure, I think that's Gabe Perreault cycling around the outside and just hitting him with a clean pass as he enters the offensive zone again like this in that really open passing lane. Just a nice one-touch pass and tape to tape. This is the kind of thing he did, and again, this is what I think lends himself to these more modern, high energy, high pace, cycle-oriented offenses that a team like Boston College liked to deploy. Everybody loves points. People criticized Hagens this year for maybe not having the kind of production other elite NCAA players had, but it's a nice pass, well-timed, and they scored a goal. So there you go. There's some points for you. Here's some more points for you. Hagens on the breakaway here with Gabe Perreault. I think you might want him to be able to generate a little more speed, but nice, simple backhand pass. Perreault had more space, less pressure, good awareness. That's how you score points. But Hagens is capable of scoring goals, and here he scores a pretty nice one, right? So this is not handled very well by UMass here. No mistake. It's a nice pass off the boards there from Ryan Leonard, and in he goes and makes no mistakes. Again, just a really, really nice shot. He's got a nice wrist shot release. I would love to see him use it more and give himself a little more strength and a little more power to get into more dangerous areas and use it more, because really at the end of the day, that's like the only real hole in his game that I can really identify that I think is a worthy question mark of taking him where I have him ranked, which is top 5, top 3 type draft pick. And here's another example of how good he is as a shooter. Just a really nice slap shot there on the one-timer, gets blocked. A saucer pass across the offensive zone here to keep the cycle going and get the puck off the boards. Another really nice pass across the entire offensive zone there. Another shot on net for Hagens here. So this is the kind of thing I think I see a lot with him that I would love to see more of. Just this, again, just good raw shooting ability that, I mean, he should be able to score more goals than he did this season, and he has in the past for sure. And I think the more that he does stuff like this, the better off he'll be, right? He's in open ice here, and again, just playing a little bit on the wing and letting Perreault handle the puck, and he loses it going 1-on-3, but Hagens cuts to the net there and stays in open ice quite a bit. And the follow-up is also something that I found interesting about this clip, right? So Hagens is a scoring threat throughout this whole thing, circles around back behind the net, and then again, still in open space here, but, ends up on the back check. So good awareness of open space, at least on this clip. And so for me, yeah, Hagens is an interesting guy to watch that I think has some scoring upside. And this is the first example we're going to see of Hagens' sort of budding physicality that has grown over the year. Again, just going into the boards, playing physical, getting dirty. This is a playoff game, right? This was the game they lost to Denver University. I tracked this one. I will admit Hagens wasn't amazing in this game, but this is the kind of thing I also wanted to see out of him after I saw him the first few times this season. And it's undeniable to me that there was more of this after Christmas, I'd say. Like after the World Juniors, I think he really got a lot more comfortable at this level and became a little more full of life and energetic off the puck especially. This is another little example of just that off-puck intensity that I want to see out of him all the time, right? The quicker he gets, the better off he's going to be, and I think that's like the key for his future development. He is just this speedster type guy with an explosive first couple of steps, which is something that's hard to do, and I think that if he can just work on building that speed after his first couple of steps and, just being really efficient and drive up the ice with power, he could be a really good sort of forechecking force as well, a better one than he already is. And this is a nice stick lift, again, just getting physically involved and doing the thing I think people kind of criticize him for not doing. Another really nice sequence here from Hagens. I don't know what the heck is going on here for Michigan State, but James Hagens, again, the yellow brick road, wide open in front of the net. If this puck just gets backhanded anywhere into this vicinity here from there, he's often on running with a great scoring chance. That doesn't happen, but what does he do? Takes a couple of steps up and they just send the pass directly to him in the defensive zone. Just an awful pass. He capitalizes, gets a good shot on net and takes a whack in the wrist. Like, this is the type of thing that I love to see, and I think Hagens is, again, if he can sort of harness this kind of thing a little bit more off the puck in the offensive zone, slow down the pace of his game a little bit and find, use his skating edges and find some space, I think he's going to do just fine. And again, smart off-puck reads. He was a pretty good forechecker in terms of the numbers that I tracked. So yeah, good stuff. And this was a good example of those types of things, that off-puck anticipation and making himself a scoring threat. This is more lovely playmaking out of Hagens. I'm not going to spend too long on this, but again, good support for the defenseman stepping up there and making a check. Hagens gets the puck here, and he wastes no time at all, right? Just a nice pass. Perreault's right in the great position to pick that up and puts it on net for a scoring chance. So again, nothing crazy here, but more evidence of Hagens quickly just isolating a really good opportunity to put a puck into scoring areas and being successful. Again, Hagens quickly thinking on the fly here on this play, kind of sends a pass into the slot into traffic on this play here, which is less than ideal, but it's the right idea, right? Like, he's not going to score from here, so at least he's trying to get a pass towards here, and maybe Ryan Leonard catches a rebound or gets to the puck there. It gets deflected into the corner, but Hagens doesn't give up on the play, knocks that down, and again, real quick pass right back out into the slot that Ryan Leonard picks up. They don't get anything out of it, but to me, this is a good indicator of Hagens. I think I would love to see him a little bit more explosive and a little bit, his base was really wide. He didn't generate a ton of speed too quickly there, but at the end of the day, it's how he sticks with this play, gets involved along the boards, gets his stick on the puck, and puts it right back out to where he was trying to put it in the first place, and does so with a free-flowing kind of nature of doing so, right? So there's a lot that I think I like about the energy that I think Hagens brings to the game when he's at his best. So this one started off spooking me a little bit because, again, Hagens has the right idea. This is not the wrong idea, and there isn't much of an opportunity for him to score from here. I mean, maybe you could argue that a quick cut this way and maybe going that way would be nice, but it's the right idea. He just waits a little too long and puts it right into the skates of 13, but sticks with it. Good edges to get right back on the puck, and again, really quick, makes no mistake, and boom, gives it right to Gabe Perreault in a prime scoring area and almost gets himself a point, right? Like, there was a few situations like this where if the puck just is a little bit differently placed by the person who scores it, James Hagens has more points on the season, and that can make a big difference, when there's 4 or 5 opportunities like this over the course of a season. And so, yeah, I mean, Hagens is a player who I think is just gifted with the puck as a playmaker, and I think he needs to learn the timing of things a little bit better and inviting pressure a little too much, but the skill is there. He uses his skating really, really well, and he thinks really quickly on the puck as well. Again, I'm biased, but look at Teddy Stiga on the forecheck here, right? This is why I loved this guy so much. He is fearless, just all over guys all the time. Hagens capitalizes on that. Simple pass, again, quickly thinking, gets it to someone else, and that's a beautiful play from Boston College. This was a game where I felt like Hagens looked his best, I think, from what I remember this season, and it's just this quick strike playmaking, right? Give him some space and he'll take advantage. Really, really nice goal, and a really, really nice play here from all the guys on the ice, but that quick little backhand pass from Hagens starts the offensive play here, and I think that this is a really, really nice play. So this is around when I started to see a little bit more out of Hagens in the physical sense. So again, I want to see more, in terms of speed and really attacking guys, but he sticks with this guy really well and just pins him to the boards and causes that turnover in the offensive zone. Like, that's the kind of thing I think goes a little bit unheralded about his game, and it wasn't there early in the year, I will admit, but the fact that I've seen it enough now where I feel a lot more confident about his projectability is, I think, a really good thing. So this is one of the examples. This is just really nice off-puck defending from Hagens as well. He is this guy at the middle of the ice here on the back check, makes a great read here, supports his defenseman, and just picks up men in the middle, multiple, and uses his stick really well, breaks the play up, and they get the puck out of their own end. So this is the kind of thing as well he's going to need to do. Like, this is kind of why I don't mind smaller centers as long as they have a really high-end skating ability and agility and good footwork to be able to, make these coverages, get around the ice, and be mobile like a defenseman. That's something that I think I find makes it a lot easier to project a smaller center into the NHL. How many times have you seen a guy in this year's draft class in this video series do a hit like this, right? Here comes Hagens just steamrolling up the ice, and boom, erases 11. Takes himself out in the process a little bit, but again, I don't see Hagens as this guy who's afraid of physical contact. I think he's a player who maybe the coaches got in his ear or the World Junior woke him up a little bit, but I didn't see this at the beginning of the year, and this was a really nice hit, and in terms of actually separating a guy from the puck here, there aren't a whole lot of guys in this year's draft class that physically have had that level of success, but I mean, obviously it's an isolated example, but it was a nice hit, and yeah, 5'10", so not bad. This was the right idea. It doesn't go perfectly for him, but I would love to see more strength and more, agility and quickness here to apply more force, but it gets the job done. You cause a little turnover below the goal line. That's a dangerous spot for Ryan Leonard to fetch the puck, and that happens thanks to James Hagens applying a little bit of pressure below the goal there. And so, yeah, again, we kind of talked about this in the Eric Nilsson video, but watch how much ice James Hagens covers here, right? Down low, but then just gets in there with a really, really fast couple of steps, and then they cause an offensive zone turnover, and they get a scoring chance. And look who gets it, Mr. Teddy Stiga. This was sick. I don't really know what else to say. Hagens is this guy right here, and just watch the skill and the skating ability on the fly here. Just reads guys so well and just attacks the middle of the net there. I really, really think that there's a lot of potential here for a guy like Hagens with future development. That skill and evasiveness. There aren't a ton of guys in this year's class that can do this kind of thing and do it in quick succession and do so. He's not moving particularly quickly here, but he just can embarrass you, and there aren't a ton of those in this year's draft class. More just quick strike playmaking, and he does it off of a turnover. Like, wraps around the net, makes no mistake, throws it right back out in front. This is the thing Hagens did constantly. Like, there were some games where I kind of was going, yeah, Hagens has been kind of quiet most of this game, but then he just gallops into a rush at some point and gets 2 slot passes in one shift or something, and you go, okay, now the numbers are a little bit better. So for me, it's like that energy and that intensity level and consistency and intensity level, he has the potential to be a lot better than he is, I think. And I think that with time and the right coaching and the right motivation, I really do think there's a really, really good player here one day. This is in that game that got eliminated from, and again, on the forecheck, just gets down below the goal line, little stick chop, and then again, a selfless play to someone supporting him in a good spot, and they get themselves what could have been a good scoring chance. But again, a slot pass from Hagens. This is what he did really, really well in almost every game that I track. Hagens can catch you sleeping, again, Teddy Stiga on the forecheck here, causing a little havoc. Who capitalizes on it? That's James Hagens getting right through Shane Vinsagi there. Cross offensive zone scoring chance there. Really nice pass. Again, quick thinking, catches a guy sleeping, and they get a scoring chance. This is what he did. This was another really nice offensive zone turnover that he helped generate. Again, just smart off-puck positioning and good energy down low. Stick check, sticks with it, another stick check, gets the possession of the puck. Now, here's where I kind of look at him and I go, yep, this is probably the right idea, I guess. Like, scoring from here is possible with some traffic in front. He's got a great shot, but I mean, the other thing I think about too, and I've seen some guys do this, so don't get me wrong, it is something that happens. I'm not faulting him too much for this, but I would love to see him backpedal, skate backwards a little bit here, work on that footwork, and utilize this space a little bit. You know, maybe, I mean, again, I'm being wishful here on an individual clip, but there is an opportunity for Leonard to get backdoor here. So just putting it on net, and I mean, I've done work before where, you know, if you hold on to the puck for about a second, the odds of you scoring a goal go down pretty drastically. And so for me, getting that puck off your stick a little bit quicker is something Hagens does do, but I would think that I'd love to see a little bit more creativity here and a little bit more, you know, threatening offense, especially if he's going to be taking shots. So we're going to get into some areas of potential improvement here with Hagens, and this one is just one example of something I think will be a bit of an issue, especially for a guy who's 5'10 and wants to play center and probably projects pretty well as a good offensive center. The footwork to close gaps and be a little harder on these defensive zone entries is going to be pretty key for him. He's pretty explosive skating forwards and getting the puck on his stick and getting away from guys, but in those defensive situations, I think that that's going to be a key area I think he might need to work on here, and this was just one example of that. And this is earlier in the year, but this was, I remember one of the moments where I kind of went, oh, okay, there might be some issues here, right? The separation speed from Hagens here, again, the expectation for a guy like him is that he's going to need to be really, really, really quick to play his style of play in the NHL, and stuff like this where, you know, you read oncoming pressure, you hang on to the puck a little bit, and you just pass it directly to the opponent on the entry here with an inaccurate pass. It's less than ideal, especially when you have someone like Teddy Stiga here, especially when you have this guy here, 24, ready on the forecheck. If he just dumps this in, you know, you have some support, right? There's an opportunity here. So these passes on offensive entries when you're on a 2-on-1 or a 1-on-2, I should say, for him here, tough decision, but yeah, the bar for him is going to be pretty high. I'm not sure what he's supposed to do here differently. I mean, this could be a risky pass crossing the trolley tracks up the middle of the ice here, but he has a couple of moments here with the puck on his stick under control, and 9 just gets the puck right off him a little too easily here. Again, for a guy like him, the expectations are going to be greater. They're going to be bigger, whether he deserves it or not. The skill, the creativity, if it doesn't work out, people are going to notice. And I think with him, you know, again, these moments of oncoming pressure and finding ways around it is, I think, something he might need to work a little bit on. Here's another one, right? He's on his forehand, but along the wrong side of the ice. So he's shooting left. He's on the right wing. So it is kind of hard to protect the puck here. But again, a simple stick check and he's completely left behind here. You know, you're going to play with skill. You're going to need to be this sort of, he's a good, quick one-touch playmaker, but these moments of really being the guy carrying the puck and running an offense have been pretty hit or miss in most of the games I've seen this year. This is another one again, right? Like this kind of thing you can't really have if you're a 5'10 speedy offensive center. That needs to be quicker. He needs to be escaping the defensive zone quicker. And I don't think he's a, you know, slow skater, so to speak, but this is why you need sort of that consistency and energy and seeing that really good upside, that skill level and that pace more often than you know, more often than I think he showed consistently this year, because stuff like that, you know, struggling to get the puck out of your own end with this much room is a question mark. Now, part of me thinks this is Gabe Perreault's fault, but again, not an area you want to be turning the puck over. So Hagens gets the puck on the defensive zone exit here. And I mean, look at all the room, right? I always think about what a situation the player is in and what they can do and where they might be able to, you know, make a good play. And I mean, yeah, he skates directly into Gabe Perreault, but one way or the other, if you're the guy with the puck, I feel like you should be making a play here of some kind, whether it's a dump or some sort of pass to Leonard there, who's at the offensive blue line. Not something I want to harp on too much, but again, it's this like the bar for a guy like him is going to be high, and stuff like this people will take note. And again, right, I look at this play and I go, your option is directly in front of you. You're supposed to be the speedy guy, use your speed. But he kind of takes a second to hesitate and just a single stick check, and it's a pretty soft entry, right? So for me, it's like I see so much talent with Hagens, and it's just going to be a matter of, you know, instead of trying to deke through this guy and cut in this way, you know, you had a lane here, use it. You know, get some speed going, use your feet, and go for it. Like, that's the thing I want to see more of out of him. And that's all we have on James Hagens from the sample I had of him this season. I mean, look, I think Hagens is a little underrated now. I mean, I think people have seen some bigger players with more of a clear physical game who went further in their respective playoffs or played at international tournaments later in the season and got more visibility on them towards the end of the year more. And it's just left Hagens behind a little bit. And I was actually talking to an NHL employee about this not too long ago, but there is a word out there in analytical circles like mine of overanalyzation bias, right? Or overexposure bias, so to speak. And it's like, if a player has been around and playing at a high level for multiple years and eyes have been on them and everybody has seen them 20 or 30 times, it is much easier to forget about that player when something new and shiny comes along that you think is also really impressive. Now, is that a formula for, a misread on James Hagens? I mean, to a certain extent, I think the answer to that is yes. But I also think that there is some level of truth that there are other players that in other areas of the game have really pushed Hagens a little bit. When I look at my tracked data for Hagens and a guy like Cullen Potter, who played in the NCAA as well and played center and is also not very big, there's a lot of areas where Cullen Potter was better. And I have them in the same tier together, right? Like, I find it very weird that people have a James Hagens as high as they do still, through all the ups and downs, and a guy like Potter back half of the first round, maybe. And I don't really think there's that many differences between them, except Potter is a guy who kind of needs to learn how to play at a lower pace of play like Hagens can at times. So for me, I just look at Hagens and I go, in this year's draft class, there's not that many really dynamic offensive playmaker types that can skate and have really good skill, who came a long way with the physical side of the game and definitely show signs of, a guy where I just want to coach him. I just want to have him on the team and motivate him and, recognize the potential there is in his game. I think he did have a much better second half. I mean, the playoffs did not go well for Boston College, but I watched this team so much this year, and it really felt like, and it's hard to explain why, but Gabe Perreault and Ryan Leonard were just not the best line mates for him. He really felt like the guy that was really depended on to move the puck up the ice a lot of the time, and that's good, and he's good at it, but when he was playing with a guy like Teddy Stiga, who had a lot more speed and energy and just was more pesky, Ryan Leonard threw bigger hits, for sure, and it was a better shooter, but I still looked at those two playing together, and then I went back to Perreault and Leonard, and I just saw a bit of a disjointed offense there. A little bit of sort of each player on the line had a very specific thing they did pretty well, but they didn't really synergize all that well. But at the end of the day, I mean, I still think that Hagens has a really remarkable skill set, and in this year's class, if he goes later than, the top 3 or 4, I wouldn't be entirely surprised, but whoever does pick him is getting a pretty darn good player. And I do think there's a chance that he, doesn't come as far as he can or should and is a bit of an underwhelming NHL player. I think the expectations for him are going to be really, really high. If he's not in your top 6, he's not going to play in your bottom 6. And I don't think he's a first line center. I don't think in the NHL. I mean, if he really develops the speed and the skating and the skill level to an elite level from where it is, then maybe, but I don't think that's a certainty. At least I can't speak to that. So for me, Hagens is a guy who's locked in at 3 for me this year. I really do like him a lot, and the more I've seen him this year, the more impressed I've been, but there's also still that back of the mind thing where I'm kind of going, I know there's more here. I know there's potential for a more successful offensive player, and I think a lot of that is indicated in the data package here that we have, right? Like, Hagens drove really excellent offensive threat metrics. His slot pass rates were amongst the best in the class. If you factor in the fact that he was in the NCAA this year, it was elite, right? 24% of his pass attempts were dangerous, directed at the slot. He created almost 40% of his team's shot attempts on the ice. Only 18% of his team's shot attempts came from him. And again, I think that part of that goes back to who he played with, right? We saw a lot of clips of him finding open space in the offensive zone, being a guy waiting for a shot, but guys like Perreault, guys like Leonard, they just couldn't find him. I think Leonard was a guy who loved to play with the puck on his own stick, attack the net at his own pace, and go for things himself. But Hagens does have goal scoring ability here too. He didn't get that many opportunities from high danger areas, and I think that part of that is shot selection. 40% of his shot attempts came from the perimeter, which is less than desirable, but I think it wasn't that bad. It's just, I think that's a big area that people are going to question rightfully. Do I think he can improve there? Yes, but in order to do that, the speed and the skill are going to need to become really high end, and they're just not quite there yet. They could be there, but I don't think they're quite there yet, at least at a really high end NHL level. But outside of that, the data looks really good on him. There's a lot of things he's doing really well. Really efficient transition player offensively, pretty decent defensively as well. Decent stick checker, I'd say. Could be beaten a little bit too easily under pressure on retrievals and all of that, which needs to be worked on as well. But still, just drove really, really good results. And I think overall, there's a really good package of talent here. There's a really good foundation of special ability here that you don't find a ton of in this year's draft and is worth betting on. I would be very honest with him and say, look, I think that, you go back to college, you play a year with Teddy Stiga, you play a ton of minutes. Hopefully you do better in the playoffs than you did this past year, have some fun, and if need be, you go back for another year, right? Like, I would take him along slowly but surely here, because I think there is a bit of a longer development curve here, and I would really want him to become one of the more offensively dominant NCAA players, which I don't think he was quite there this year. He was very, very good, don't get me wrong, but I think there's still a bit of a ways to go here. I still love him, a great player. He's in my top 5. I would be very surprised if he goes anywhere outside the top 5, but anything is possible, and I think that NHL teams can find reasons to forget about him, but I think he's dead on when he was at the Combine talking about how teams seem to have forgotten that he was so good at the U18s last year, and he already has a World Junior Gold medal, and, he did do well with the Boston College team this year. So, there's all this talk about other players and how good of a winner they are and how, they were good at the U18s this year and yada, yada, yada. And he has just as much claim to that as well. So for me, Hagens is still a very, very desirable player, even if there is a bit of a ways to go and a really high bar to play his style in the NHL. But I think he could get there with the right path forward. I think he could get there, even if he does have a little bit more of a road ahead than I think people were hoping for going into this season. So with that, thank you so much for watching. This was great. I love this guy. I hope you do too. So if you liked the video, definitely like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you really liked it, definitely check out Scouching.ca, where a subscription will get you access to these videos as early as they come out, and plenty of goodies like our Discord server access and data visualization tools and data tables for the draft and draft eligible prospects and players that have already been drafted. All kinds of fun stuff you can check out over at Scouching.ca. And with that, we'll see you in the next one, and we'll see you during our live shows on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern and Thursday afternoons at 2 p.m. Eastern. Toodles.